high on the agenda of policymakers in Guyana is the need to ensure that systems in place to facilitate the growth and development of the country's natural resources sector are transparent and provides for full accountability. I am Ernestine Leonard, and this week on Dorado Shines, we will be taking a closer look at measures and latest technology being employed in some of the key agencies which fall under the Ministry of Natural Resources and the Environment.
Did you know that gold is found in every continent and it can be mined in all of them except Antarctica?
Tasked with the responsibility to effectively manage Guyana's forest resources, the Guyana Forestry Commission, as well as other agencies, has been using cutting-edge technology to monitor remote locations across the country. A Geographic Information System, or GIS, integrates hardware, software, and data for capturing, managing, analyzing, and displaying all forms of geographically referenced information. GIS allows us to view, understand, question, interpret, and visualize data in many ways that reveal relationships, patterns, and trends in the form of maps, globes, reports, and charts. In Guyana, its use is concentrated in the natural resources and the environment sector for use in land boundary demarcation, overlays, and monitoring.
So basically, the system was introduced sometime during 2001 to forestry, and we use it initially to manage concession data. Concession data being the allocation of forest plots for production use, and then we started gradually to move into the use of the GIS system to do remote sensing.
Basically, a geographic information system consists of hardware, software, data, people, and procedures. Some people add and subtract a few of those items for it. But what it is computerized mapping of various quantities on the surface of the earth, sometimes above and sometimes below also, in a computerized environment where you can run various types of analysis.
Since 2005, there has been significant development of GIS within the operations of the Ghana Geology and Mines Commission, the Ghana Forestry Commission, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the Ghana Lands and Surveys Commission. The advent of the Low Carbon Development Strategy, also known as the LCDS, has seen significant development of data and technology within the Ghana Forestry Commission. Both the GFC and the GGMC are dependent on GIS for a significant amount of their day-to-day operations.
So in terms of responsibility, we have the management of the small concessions unit, which we call the SFPs. And the SFPs are the smallest allocation of state forest for production use. And persons would come in and they would, if someone needs a new area, we would help them to identify that area. We'll create the boundary, we'll describe it and produce maps for them to go and actually check these areas. And those are the areas that are placed on we have a vacant area period. So those are the areas that are placed on the vacant area list during specific periods of the year. And this is where we interact with stakeholders at this small state, at this SFP level. Also, persons would come in if they have boundary issues and they can't just go on the ground. We would produce the maps or give them an overview of what exactly is going on, right? So we keep them up to date with the information. Then we have the other aspect of responsibility within the unit. We have the TSAs, which is the timber sale agreements. Those are the largest allocations. And for that system, we produce what we call annual operational plans and forest management plans. So what these plans basically do, it creates a picture of a booklet, because they have to produce it they have to produce it written. Now we take that written information, written documentation, we produce maps, so that persons could be able easily see where they're going and it could aid decision makers. And what the annual operational plan basically does, it has a block system, and it states where exactly you're going to be working, what type of work will be done, and where, right? And over which period. So in terms of interacting with stakeholders, we produce those maps for them.
Classrooms, not much discussions you would have on the television, because in our country and its employment in various agencies, it is relatively new, but not novel. It has been around for a number of years, but being used very segmented and in specific areas, not across the board. And we do hope that through activities and occasions such as this, and engaging you, young people, as we've engaged other stakeholders, that we can see a better appreciation as to not only the value, the use, but also the skills opportunity, the professions that can be developed within this new, widening, growing area of GIS technology. But also importantly today, we have decided that we will merge another development, another progress that we've made working with our partners from the European Union, and that is to talk a bit about our national land use policy. We're a country blessed with a very large land area. To give you an example, the size of our rainforest, which is about 85% of our total land mass, is in fact bigger than England. So you can appreciate Guyana in terms of land mass in that regard. And if you talk about the Caribbean islands, you know, one of our islands, take for instance Leguan, would be twice, thrice, and sometimes 4 times the size of one of the countries within the CARICOM or one of the Caribbean islands. And I wanted to give you that appreciation when we talk about the landmass and the size of our country. And within this landmass and within our geographical space, we have tremendous amount of resources, and we also possess a great deal of potential. But to develop those resources and, as it were, to maximize the potential, we need to do it in a very planned, a very organized, a very systematic, and in a very scientific way. And one of the mechanisms and one of the ways in which we can do so is if we develop a national land use plan. And a national land use plan, simply put, would tell us that in this part of the country, having done an evaluation, whether it's forestry, whether it's agriculture, whether it's mining, whether it's commerce, whatever other activities, they would have determined that the land area is best suited in terms of economics, in terms of its environment, in terms of social issues, in terms of its access for a particular activity. So we are moving away where someone wakes up one morning and decides that he's going to start a farm on the highway and decides that he's going to go and plant rice. Or if we go into our hinterland and someone identifies an area and decides, well, you know what, I'm going to start a mining operation, or I'm going to start a factory in a different area, or I'm going to engage in a particular crop, or they see an area and decide, well, this is best suited for forestry. Or an investor comes into the country and says, well, I've passed, you have an area, say in Region 7, in the Upper Mazaruni area, take for example, and I think that is best suited, say for us to establish a large-scale cultivation, when in fact, there are other things such as energy development and so can be done. But in the absence of a national land use plan, and in the absence of a regional plans, because as part of this project with the EU, we have not only developed a national land use plan, but we've started to develop regional land use plans. And I give you that insight because as young people, you will be the future leaders, and you want to ensure that the decisions that we make today are sensible, they're sound, they're wise, and they're visionary. So that when you inherit offices and when you inherit, as it were, the management of this country, be it private or public sector, you can rest assured that the decisions that were made in 2013, by the time you, in the next 5, 10 years, that you would have been in charge of taking up those responsibilities, that the decisions that we made today were smart ones. And the development of a national land use plan is about allowing us to make smart, sensible, but also to make transparent decisions. Because in our quest to develop our country, we have to put a lot of emphasis on open and transparent governance in the decisions that we make and even the tools that we use to make those decisions. And I want to thank the EU for its support in allowing us, for the first time in our country, to have a national land use plan. And to wake you up, I want you to give the EU a loud round of applause.
Did you know that an environmental impact assessment is a study best carried out at the planning stage of a project to identify and assess the effects the project may have on our environment and well-being?
Expertly trained staff collect, interpret, and analyze data collected using GIS, which guides the decision-making process.
Basically, this tells what is the function of the unit and why the unit basically exists. So if you look at it, it says the unit was developed to manage the GFC's GIS database, and this is helped to support the whole issue of sustainable forest use in Guyana. And how the FRE really does that, we utilize these tools that you see here, and these are the tools that we actually put into the GIS system, which is, I explained before, is the computer software. And based on the different manipulations that could be done within this software, these are the basic outputs that we put out, or the outputs that we produce. So we have a couple generalized maps here. We have the national vegetation map, which gives the forest types or the vegetation types for the entire Guyana. There is the forest allocation map, which shows all the concessioned areas that were given out, and we also include data from the GNSC, which are the Amerindian areas, and the protected areas. We also include these on the map. So when someone comes in and they want to know where exactly is available for production use, we could provide them with a map as such, and they see exactly where is allocated and where is vacant. We also have the administrative map, which shows basically the regions in Guyana. Apart from these maps, we have the specific map. This example shows a concession. This is just a concession area and his neighbors who were allocated areas surrounding him. And the other specific map, this is the forest change, and these different polygons shows what is the difference. This is what it was in 1 year, and in the second year we have the change appearing. So, and apart from these maps, the software also produces reports in the form of tables, as we see up here.
Did you know that noise pollution affects both health and behavior? Noise pollution can cause annoyance and aggression, hypertension, high stress levels, among other ailments.
In addition to this computerized system, the GFC has in place a wide range of mechanisms to effectively manage the forest resources.
We have a lot of systems in place as GFC, but the FRA focuses on the GIS system. But for example, the monitoring division, the field officers themselves are a tool for monitoring and verification. They're the ones that go into the field, do the ground truthing, make sure the stumps are where they say they are, and they report on the legality of the production. Right? So we have the log tracking systems. We have, right now the GFC is moving towards the adaptation of the EU FLEC, which is basically a framework that helps us to account where the logs are coming from.
If accountability and transparency are to be fully realized, then it becomes even more important that all the agencies working in the natural resources and the environment sector put into practice the kinds of policies that would ensure this result. Working in unison in order to achieve these common objectives is therefore important.
Lands and surveys generally has three main functions. Their primary functions is the administering of public lands and state lands, primarily in relation to the issuing of agricultural leases. The second major function is that Lands and Surveys is the official surveying agency of the government of Guyana. Also, it is the repository for all surveys that are carried out in Guyana. The third function is that we are also the official mapping agency of the government of Guyana. That is, we create the official maps of Guyana.
The Guyana Lands and Surveys Commission provides other agencies, such as the Guyana Forestry Commission, with vital information that aid in the effective management of forest resources.
Main land allocation agencies in Guyana fall under the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment, and those would be the Guyana Forestry Commission issuing timber sales agreement and wood cutting leases, that sort of thing. The Guyana Geology and Mines Commission issuing various types of mining license and permits, and the Lands and Surveys Commission, which is responsible for agriculture and a few other types of land-related issues for which we issue leases for. The question now comes in, how do we manage the land in Guyana, manage it properly, without putting the information from these three agencies together where you can have a holistic view of the situation. You would typically end up in situations where you'd have mining, overlapping forestry, maybe overlapping a titled Amerindian land, and agriculture is also in the mix. So you need to provide an accurate picture of where the land allocation is in Guyana. And Lands and Surveys, we're in the process of preparing our lease information. In terms of the mapping, Lands and Surveys provides the standard base maps upon which all other mapping can happen. This ensures a sort of standard in that the information other institutions use to produce their information on is standard. So one institution would not have a different version of the rivers of Guyana from another institution. And when that institution prepares its data with one of their concessions, for example, having a riverine boundary, it doesn't match the data from the other institutions because they're using two different sets of base information. So Lands and Surveys prepares that base information as a standardized base, thereby ensuring some sort of data standard. And that with the agricultural leases, and also we're sort of the de facto data managers for Amerindian lands. Those three pieces of information we contribute towards the centralized system for the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment, along with the concessions from the Guyana Forestry Commission and the concessions from the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission. The ministry would be able to put these pieces of information together to see where the overlaps and conflicts are, where each activity is located, where the titled Amerindian lands are located. And we have to respect those lands. And also by having these pieces of information on a map, we also see where the available lands are. And we have recently completed a draft of National Land Use Plan, which does this sort of analysis also and make some recommendations on what available lands can be used for.
Did you know that gold is found in every continent and it can be mined on all of them except Antarctica?
First, let me congratulate, and also on behalf of the mining community, to thank MarCorp for establishing a branch here, because we know how important it is to ensure that people, companies, and those who are involved in the provision of goods and services, it is important that they be within proximity of mining for a number of reasons, rather than persons have to expend lots of money and valuable time in going off to Providence or going off to some other coastal area. And having MarCorp here and being able to distribute its Caterpillar line products and services, I think will be of immense value and support to the mining sector in Region 1, but particularly here in the surrounding areas of Port Kaituma. We all recognize that mining is growing, it's expanding, and for communities such as Port Kaituma, you were here 10 years ago, or even a little before, you would not have seen, as we can see in Guyana's context, the high-rise buildings that are going up, the amount of commercial activities taking place. The area has also seen persons migrating from the coast, coming here. In fact, the person who was bringing us from the airport was telling me that he came all the way from Skeldon and looking for opportunities. And that is a positive development once it is done in a very organized, sustainable way, and also out of respect for indigenous local communities, but also out of respect for our country's natural wealth. And as a government, we've always sought to support hinterland development, but also looking at activities, particularly mining, forestry, and even in some of the other areas where we have their protected areas, to have various forms of economic activities to provide opportunities for hinterland communities, communities away from the coast, so that they too, as it were, can enjoy the benefits of development, and that our country can undergo a level of equal development. Not some areas are growing more than other areas, or some communities are enjoying prosperity and others aren't. And it is part of our outlook in terms of bringing development right across the country. And one of the means that we've recognized in utilizing our natural wealth has been the development of the mining sector. And from time to time, we have been criticized, as a matter of fact, of perhaps being too facilitative of mining. I myself would have received personal criticisms in this regard, that perhaps the government is too open to mining and that we are not paying enough and due attention to the challenges of mining. And I want to address that because, yes, we are committed to mining, and we make absolutely no apology for that, because we believe that if there's a resource that is utilized in a responsible and environmentally friendly way, and we put the necessary controls and regulations, there ought to be no reason, absolutely no reason, why we should frustrate or prevent the development and the utilization of that resource for the wealth and prosperity of our nation.
Welcome to Guyana, the gateway to South America. A pristine haven of abundant natural resources. We are a nation born in sacrifice and enriched by our togetherness. When we play, we celebrate every effort. When we celebrate, we salute more than success. We exude our right to move forward. You may not always notice, but everywhere you are, we are building bridges and linking communities. We are the only authorized Caterpillar dealer in Guyana, and we are driven by the delivery of sustainable integrated solutions to the most important productive sectors of the nation. It's not just what you build, it's how you build it. Your success depends on the foundation it's built on.
Built on trust.
Built on culture.
Built on pride.
Build to last. We believe that anything worth building should be built just once. That is why everything we do is meant to move you forward. We are driven by your success to be the undisputed leader in every sector of business we enter into, with a clear sense of permanence in time, which shall be carried out with excellence and due regards to the interest of all stakeholders. MACORP. Let's build Guyana together.